Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Since winning the election, Trump has surrounded himself with several men accused of varying degrees of sexual misconduct. Defense Secretary-designee Pete Hegseth investigated for sexual assault in 2017. His lawyer says no charges were filed. Matt Gaetz, Trump's choice for Attorney General, investigated by the Justice Department for allegedly having sex with a minor, though he was not prosecuted. The Senate will render final judgment on his nomination.
How would you assess his chances right now?
I have no idea. I wouldn't bet my house on it one way or the other. And if I were betting your house, which would be a lot easier, I have to say I don't know.
Hegseth and Gaetz have denied the accusations. Trump was asked whether he's having second thoughts about Gaetz.
Are you at all troubled by those allegations?
We're going to have conversations.
What else do you need to know?
We're going to have conversations.
I want to protect the women of our country.
Trump himself was found civilly liable for sexually abusing a woman in the 90s, which he has denied, and has also denied sexual misconduct allegations from at least 15 other women.
We're starting at a pretty low bar here in terms of who's nominating people.
He is a phenomenal person.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Trump's pick to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, acknowledged apologizing to a former nanny who accused him of unwanted sexual advances also in the 90s.
Do you think you may have to do that ever again?
It's quite possible. I'm 70 years old. I had a very rambunctious life.
Trump's picks reflect an incoming administration hostile to the norms of the Me Too movement. Behavior now assumed to be disqualifying may again slide by.
Nobody should be disqualified because of a media report.
The Trump campaign visibly embraced machismo.
Run wild, brother!
Putting Trump on TV shows and podcasts watched by primarily male audiences. Those efforts paid off. His advantage among men increased in 2024 compared to the two previous elections.
Good God. And now, did you hear the news? Did you hear everybody? The other day I was kidding around. I was joking. I was offering an explanation that I actually could live with. And I said, okay, this isn't a cabinet. This is the Authoritarian Apprentice. And then there was no egg timer around when I needed one. He announced that Linda McMahon is going to be the Secretary of Education. Now, you don't know, or maybe you do, about her husband, but do you know about her? So let's just confine ourselves to her. Linda McMahon has been named in a lawsuit along with her husband for sexual abuse by, at the time, 5 sexual assault survivors who were 12 and 13 years old at the time. Her and her husband are both named in a lawsuit filed against the WWE, which they owned, and their parent company, TKO Group Holdings, because they said that one of the guys that organized Ring announcer, the Ring announcer, Mel Phillips, he died in 2012. He was grooming young boys after hiring them to assist the ring crews with errands, luring them in under the guise that they would meet professional wrestlers. Quote, thanks to the bravery of our clients, we finally have a chance to hold accountable those who allowed and enabled the open, rampant sexual abuse of these young boys. Gary Gutzler, a partner at DiCello Levitt, who is leading the litigation, said in a statement, quote, that so many were aware of the sexual abuse of the ring boys and did nothing to prevent or stop it is simply unconscionable. You know, they say that life imitates art. Well, sometimes life actually imitates schlock. like WWE. No offense if you were involved or like it, Governor. No offense, but honestly, man, does everybody that he nominates do they all have to like prove that somewhere along the line they assaulted sexually a person or many people or multiple women or now little boy? I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say anymore. Honestly, this is not a cabinet. This is the Celebrity Apprentice on steroids. And, you know, the Celebrity Apprentice was fun to watch in this kind of rubberneck sort of who is he going to fire? Little John or Gary Busey? Or maybe Meatloaf will lose his mind again because somebody stole his paints. Right? But this is real life now. This is happening. And just when you thought it couldn't get, like, weird enough, all of a sudden, we have the name Dr. Oz from the TV Dr. Oz. That Dr. Oz is going to be nominated to be in charge of the Center for Medicare Services, the CMS, which, by the way, touches almost everybody's life. HHS, I have to say, where he put RFK. Oh, my God. He put RFK in charge of that. That is an enormous amount of agencies that affect and touch almost every single person in this country's life, whether it's the Center for Disease Control, the National Institutes of Health, or Medicare and Medicaid services. Now we got Dr. Oz in charge of a program that administers health care. Well, that's, you know, listen, this is we're the end users, right? 150 million of us are the end users, whether you're a disabled person or whether you're a senior and you get Medicare, whether you're somebody that doesn't make a whole lot of money and you're actually, you know, you have to prove you're nearly destitute in order to get Medicaid coverage, right? And they want to increase the eligibility standards. They want to make you have to apply over and over and over again in a single year period, right? I mean, they want to make it almost, and now they're putting Dr. Oz in charge of all of this. A program that affects 150 million Americans, 150 million, 70 million who are disabled. And Dr. Oz is going to be in a position to set the reimbursement rates from these programs for your doctor, for your hospital, and for everybody from your dermatologist to your heart surgeon, okay? The reimbursement rate. Do you think that he won't be, I don't know, promised things by K Street lobbyists who might be lobbying for medical devices to be covered under Medicare or for the reimbursement rate for Medicaid to be high? Now, I will tell you this. I remember when Dr. Oz was selling weight loss opportunities, and they would be like, coffee kombucha. They would be like weird names, things that you can't even remember anymore, to the point where the Senate got involved. I don't know, do you remember that he had to go and testify to the United States Senate about these products that don't work, and that, you know, when he endorses them, people take him seriously as a physician because he presents himself as a physician, and he was still doing heart surgeries until like 2018. And so it carried an inordinate amount of weight if he recommended something. And during COVID, he did recommend things too. He recommended hydroxychloroquine. Yes, he did. And chloroquine without the hydroxy part. I don't know. Anyway, he was called to the Senate to testify. And do you know what his explanation was for selling vitamins and weight loss products that didn't actually work? He said, on my show, we sell hope. We sell hope. Now, he has also been a proponent of Medicare for all, but for the low, low basement bargain price of 20% FICA taxes. 20%. And he characterized that as a low, low tax.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
And now I've got the #1 miracle in a bottle to burn your fat.
Over the past 5 seasons of his syndicated show, Dr. Mehmet Oz has touted a series of exotic diet aids.
It's raspberry ketone. It's called Yacon syrup, sea buckthorn.
Oz's advice is so influential that one mention of a product can cause sales to skyrocket. The phenomenon even has its own name, the Dr. Oz effect.
The average person who was taking the green coffee bean extract lost about 2 pounds.
After Dr. Oz touted a substance called green coffee bean extract, one company in Florida sold 500,000 bottles, only to be sued by the Federal Trade Commission for false advertising. Senator Claire McCaskill argues Dr. Oz is fueling a diet industry filled with unfounded and expensive products.
I've got no problem with celebrity endorsements of any product, but I do have a problem when a science-based doctor says that something's a miracle when there's no science to back it up.
Dr. Oz tells CBS This Morning, the issue of scams connected to products I talk about has plagued me since long before I launched the Dr. Oz Show. I have constantly reminded viewers never to buy anything that uses my name or a clip from my show, and that I do not sell any products. McCaskill says the problem goes well beyond one TV show.
The results are in.
She argues broadcasters and major websites need to do a better job weeding out dubious advertisers who promise their product will help Americans lose 30 pounds in 30 days or burn fat without diet or exercise.
The question is, why are they accepting so much advertising that it's on its face? It's pretty clear that most of what they're claiming is just not true.
Well, I don't know, Senator Claire McCaskill. I mean, I'm still taking sea buckthorn and hoping it'll help me shed a pound or two. It's supposed to be 2 pounds, supposed to be 2. You know, if I don't drink water for like an hour and a half, I lose 2 pounds. Okay? It's just, and this is who they're going to put in charge of the Medicare and Medicaid trust funds. Oh, everybody, this is going to go really swell for all of us. This is, here's the thing, okay? I don't know who else they're going to pick from TV. You know, Sean Duffy, he was on The Real World. People hated him. I mean, literally despised him. I think he was on Dancing with the Stars, too. I mean, how many more TV people are we going to put into, positions that affect your children or your mother? Do you know what I mean? Like, between Oz over here with the Medicare and Medicaid and... Sean Duffy at Transportation, okay, and Linda McMahon in charge of the Department of Education. Linda McMahon is going to be in charge. Okay, let me just tell you what's going to happen here, okay, because this is not the Celebrity Apprentice. This is not the Authoritarian Apprentice. This is not Apprentice. This is not Apprentice 2. This is real, okay? Those shows are not WWE, Linda McMahon. I mean, okay, half real. Meaning the injuries that people who participate in the sport actually sustain, those are real. The outcomes, not so real. Okay, so that aside, how many more TV people are we going to put into serious jobs overseeing $1 trillion, the Medicare, Medicaid trust funds? $1.1 trillion. 150 million people depend on it. 70 million people who are poor and or disabled or both depend on it. And we're picking TV people. I mean, I could just call Jessica up and ask her which of the teen moms, would be great for, I don't know, Secretary of what do they build? What do they call the Space Force? Space Force. Yeah, maybe we could get Ty and Caitlin to, head up Space Force. That would be good, right? Or Amber. Amber, she's bitchy. This is such a mocking of us. This is a literally laughing in our face thing. And you know who's, this was designed by all the people who are part of it are, remember when Trump said, when Kamala was running and she was trying to warn you about Project 2025, and she was trying to tell you, and so was everybody else who gave a damn about this country or you. They were all telling you, read Project 2025, or, like I told people, Control F, the little trick where you can Control F and you could look up education. You just put the word in the box that pops up, where you could search any government service, the Department of Education, any of those things, and it would take you to the plan for that. And the plan for the Department of Education has been, since Project 2025 was written by the Heritage Foundation's, peeps over there, was to destroy and to just delete the Department of Education. And now they're picking a woman who is from a half real sort of a reality TV sport and putting her in charge of a department that manages every single person's child's education, unless you're one of the very lucky who send your kid to a private school. What could go wrong there? I mean, seriously, like what? So here's what's going to happen. I just want you to make a note of it, because I don't know how fast this will happen, because deleting these agencies, it's not a question of, being I Dream of Jeannie. It's not a question of, just going like this and blinking your eyes and it no longer exists. A lot of this has to go through Congress, because Congress appropriates money to them, which is what makes them real. And Congress establishes rules for them, which is what makes them real. And sets, eligibility requirements for certain things, and which makes them real. And not television, and not, celebrity anything, and not, WWE, and not Dr. Oz, and not even Oprah, okay? These are real things that touch everybody's real lives in real ways. So here's what's going to happen if they got rid of the Department of Education. I'm just saying, okay? So the Department of Education, does anybody really understand in this audience? I know that Moms for Liberty don't. They don't understand what the Department of Education actually does. The Department of Education is mostly a financial thing. It mostly gives money to public schools, colleges. It oversees the massive, massive $1 trillion student loan industry. It's a business. The Department of Education is not, deciding that your child needs to learn the 1619 Project or experience DEI no, the Department of Education is actually sending 14% of the budget of your school, of your public school, to your public school. And if they got rid of it and that 14% didn't come in anymore, guess what? Your property taxes will go up by 14% to make up the difference. You understand? So here's Dr. Oz over here talking about, hey, if we just did a low payroll tax of 20%, everyone could have Medicare coverage. And Linda McMahon's job is to get rid of the 14% that is doled out to your school from the federal level. So your property taxes would go up 14% to pay for that. This is not going to be good for us.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
The president-elect has long promised on the campaign trail to send education back to the states. And now, as you mentioned, he has appointed his transition team co-chair, Linda McMahon, to the Department of Education. She was on Connecticut's Board of Education 2 years ago, and the president-elect calls her a fierce advocate for parents' rights. McMahon, she's also the former head of the WWE. She was also named in a lawsuit alleging the wrestling promotion allowed years of sexual abuse of young boys by a ringside announcer. She served as a Small Business Administration chief from 2016 to 2019 under President Trump. The president-elect also tapped former TV host and heart surgeon Dr. Mehmet Oz to oversee the CMS, which works to deliver Medicare and Medicaid to millions of Americans. At the same time, though, behind the scenes this morning, Marky, a source familiar, is telling News Nation that Vice President-elect J.D. Vance will make the rounds on Capitol Hill this week, arranging for now former Congressman Matt Gaetz and Trump's pick for the Defense Department, Pete Hegseth, to meet with key GOP senators. Each has been described by some lawmakers as facing an uphill battle for confirmation. And Markey, all of this also comes as a lawyer involved in the Gates investigation says an unauthorized person gained access to confidential files containing damaging testimony about those sexual misconduct allegations against Gates. Gates, for his part, has denied any wrongdoing.
What did you think was going to happen? We have all of these people with either live cases against them of sexual assault, sexual harassment, pedophilia, the 12 and 13-year-old case, against Linda McMahon and her husband. Her husband has also been accused of sex trafficking by a woman in a lawsuit. Of course, they deny everything, and, good luck with that. But honestly, is there anybody in that report that isn't accused of being a sex pest? At the very least, and at the very worst, a pedophile? And what is the deal with wrestling and pedophiles? I'm not really clear. But I will tell you, Fat Denny Hastert, who was the Speaker of the House way back in the day, he was a pedophile. He was a pedophile, and he was, he was the Speaker of the House of the United States, House of Representatives, Republican. And then he went on to be a very, very, very powerful lobbyist with the corner office and all that. And then he finally got clipped. He finally got caught. He finally got nabbed. He finally got nailed and went to jail after all those years, after all of that. Okay? It's just, and Jim Jordan, who we spell with a G at this point, also, very much into, covering up at least wrestling assaults on young boys in the locker room. And speaking of locker rooms, Nancy Mace, who is just wigged out, just beyond belief. Now, here's the thing. Nancy Mace is a congresswoman. She is a sexual assault survivor. Come here, nestle in my armpit. All the Me Too ladies, we will, we will take you in and love you. We will take you in and listen to your stories over and over and over again. We will tell you that we're not going to tolerate it anymore. And then you have a choice to make about your colleagues. Your colleagues, the men that you work with. Because Nancy Mace literally went on Lala Ingram's show last night to complain about a newly elected House of Representatives, a Congress member. Her name's Sarah McBride. Sarah McBride transitioned from a male to a female, and she was elected by her district, who knows her, who knows everything about her. Anything there is to know, her district knows, and they chose her to represent them. And Nancy Mace is freaked out about being in a bathroom with Sarah McBride because she's a sexual assault survivor and actually feels like Sarah McBride might be a threat to her chasteness. I don't know how to say it. She thinks Sarah McBride is gonna, attack her in the bathroom. This is very strange, considering that she's now saying that Sarah McBride needs to go to the men's room. If Sarah McBride needs to relieve herself during the day, had too many, cups of coffee or some such thing, or drank a lot of bottled water because it was, hydration day, whatever. She should go to use the men's room with the likes of Matt Gaetz. She should go use the men's room with Jim Jordan. She should go use the men's room with, Pete Hegseth. I know he doesn't work there, but he'll be there. He'll be up on Capitol Hill. Trust me, he will. So, what is she afraid of? And why, if she's a sexual assault survivor, would she refuse to protect somebody from sexual villains, sex pests? I just don't even understand.
Are you intimating that this new congressman-elect would somehow assault you in the bathroom? That would be the argument.
The idea of a man walking into a locker room where I'm changing is actually, it feels like assault. I am a victim. I have PTSD from the trauma that I have endured at the hands of a man. And I'm going to stand in the way solidly of any guy that wants to come into our spaces. And guess what? Sarah McBride doesn't get a say in this. And I'm not going to succumb or be silenced by bullies online or by the radical left. They lost big. And I'm going to push back harder than ever before.
Okay, we didn't lose big. You're probably going to end up with a 1 or 2 seat majority, Nancy. Okay, that's just the way it is because your president is too stupid to leave you with a 5-seat majority, which is what you kind of won. Big whoop, 5 seats. But now he's picked off a whole bunch of your House members to go serve him in, his quest to destroy the government of the United States. And he's probably going to leave you with a 1 or 2 seat majority. So you really don't have, that much leverage over here. Number 2. Sarah McBride doesn't identify as a man. She has no sexual interest in you as a woman. She identifies as a woman. So she might have an interest in men, but definitely not you unless you are hiding something. I mean, they're so afraid of 0.6% of the population of America is somehow going to attack them, maul them, want them, need them, crave them, have to have them. It's so bizarre. It's so crazy. It's so insane. And of course the reason why she's making an example of this one young woman is because she can, and she knows it's a winning issue with a lot of very, very, very ill-informed Lindas. Okay, we'll just call them Linda from Texas. A lot of those people have like this big, deep fear. So Nancy Grace chose to make that an issue. Okay, I'm not going to be fooled. I'm not going to be duped. I'm not going to get into it. It's just ridiculous. Okay, it's a ridiculous thing she's doing. She's just doing it because she didn't really support Trump all that much. And she needs to get back in the good graces of this lunatic, fringy, right-wing, crappy, schlocky party. And so this is her attempt at doing so, singling out Sarah McBride, who's done nothing to her and never will do anything to her. Fine. I will focus on the larger issues, the issues of what crashing this government is going to do to your pocketbook, to my pocketbook, to our media, to our system of self-governance. They're going to just destroy it.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
This is Representative Jim McGovern. He was on the floor. He's part of the Rules Committee. He's the ranking member. He's from Massachusetts. Did I mention that? And so he was on the floor last night because the House is... Remember that bill I told you that they wanted to strip not-for-profits, nonprofits from their tax-exempt status, right? And we don't have a Treasury Secretary named yet. So we don't know who that person is. And that's where the stripping of the not-for-profit status would come. It would come from the Treasury Department. So they're debating whether or not they should, they first fast-tracked it, which means it needed 2/3 majority, okay? And it didn't get a 2/3 majority, so some of us took a deep breath and went, oh, good, dodged a bullet there. Because people who like NPR, people who like PBS, people who like Free Speech TV, people who like Pacifica Radio Network, and other not-for-profits that cover news. The Associated Press is a not-for-profit. Do you realize that? Yes, it is. Wikipedia is also a donor-supported, effort. So they're threatening, a lot of people with this crazy piece of legislation, H.R. 9495 it's called, and they're couching it under, as if we were still at the war on terror. That was still going on. They're saying that any broadcaster, any network, any outfit, any person, place, thing that in Donald Trump's unilateral judgment, swear to God, is deemed to be expressing sympathy for a terrorist organization, or is a terrorist organization, or is doing violence for a political end, which would pretty much describe the January 6th insurrectionists. They did violence, hoping for a political end. The political end was to install Donald Trump as their president way back after, he lost the 2020 election, right? They're in jail now. He wants to pardon them. But if the dictionary definition of terrorism is what it is, and that is violence done in the name of achieving a political result. You make the decision. But Donald Trump wants the ability to deem anybody who disagrees with him or any organization who supports people who disagree with him as terrorist organizations and then strip them of their not-for-profit status. This in the same breath as Donald Trump would like to purge the military of 4 stars and 3 stars and 2 stars and 1 stars and maybe even your full bird colonel and a light colonel somewhere along the line might be a victim to this. But he wants to purge them if they're not sufficiently loyal to him. And also, reports by the Heritage Foundation, reports on the Heritage Foundation, that they are pursuing plans. You know that they're pursuing plans to fire an extraordinary number of civil servants. You know that, right? To put in loyalists. So how are they going to purge? How are they going to, do this? How are they going to know who's loyal and who's not and who to interview and who? Because there's over 1 million people we're talking about in this case, right? Well, CNN reported Monday that they were scared by the reports that the Heritage Foundation is pursuing plans to scan government workers' emails and text messages for any sign of liberal bias that would be considered being supportive of terrorism, liberal bias. And a Wall Street Journal report said that Donald Trump needs to, or he wants to purge disloyal generals. Now, if you understand that, the social media types, the Peter Thiels of the world, the algorithm writers, the Elon Musks of the world, have the ability to do this now. It's not, just some fairy dust, pixie dust. It's not just wishful thinking. It can actually be done. They can actually, especially, when you consider, like, if you use Gmail is not private. I don't know if you understand that the reason why you might get advertising targeted to you if you use Gmail and you talk about something with your friend that you really like, Tiger Toes. What the hell? Yeah, Tiger Toes. It's fabulous. Tiger Toes. I have a dog. He's old. You know that, Alan. He's 13. He has very, very weak legs. And sometimes they splay on the tile floors or on the fake wood floors that I have. Pergo, it was called in the day, and I thought it was fabulous, a fabulous way to get that wood look without the wood price, which I couldn't afford. But it's very slippery, and so he just splays on the floor. He doesn't, he's not able to actually hold himself up or, run for the toy without his legs just splaying. So a friend of mine, we were emailing, and he was telling me that he had also a 13-year-old. I believe his breed was Cavalier King Charles. Beautiful. King Charles Cavalier. I don't know. Beautiful dog. The one from Sex and the City, Elizabeth Taylor, that dog. And that his wife had found on Amazon this product called Tiger Toes. And what it is are little socks that, I used to put on my mom. Because I didn't want her to slip and fall. They put them on you when you're at the hospital. They have like little tread and grippy socks, they're called now. But they make them for dogs. And they're called Tiger Toe. And so I was very thrilled to find that all of a sudden I'm getting hit with ads for Tiger Toes. Everywhere I, am connected. Everywhere I'm on the internet. My phone, the advertising that's put into, my computer when I browse or search, all of the little marketing, cookies and they all follow you around okay. So they do have the ability to read your email. And they're not like sitting there going, oh, she's talking about. No, they're scanning it for marketing words, for things you might be interested in so they can market to you. And the cost of buying this stuff is pretty high up. And this is really a very large profit center. Selling your information, your data, selling it is massive. It's huge, humongous business, okay? And so just know that they can scan the emails and the text messages of people who work in the civil service. And they can deduce whether or not they have liberal leanings. And if they do, the desire is to purge them from our government. It's the Stasi, but an algorithm. So Jim McGovern got on the floor yesterday and was like literally beside himself about the purges, about the offerings for the heads of our departments, about the records of these people, about their ability to manage these massive programs that affect and touch everybody's life, from your children all the way up to in the middle, the food that we eat and buy and how much it will cost us, all the way to the tippy top of disabled people and Medicare recipients and Medicaid, which pays for destitute, seniors to be taken care of in nursing homes.
I do not believe any of what my Republican friends are talking about on the floor today is in line with what the American people voted for. They voted for cheaper groceries, not whatever the hell this stuff is. They are asking us to vote for a bill, my Republican friends, that would give the incoming administration the ability to revoke the nonprofit status of any advocacy group they want, just by labeling them as a terrorist sympathizer. A bill that would give President-elect Trump a new power to just unilaterally accuse an American group of terrorism and then shut them down. Oh, God. Again, no guardrails for an administration that says it will go after the enemy within. Just a bill that gives them power to do that on day one. And meanwhile, every decision that has been made by this incoming administration so far has not been about the American people. It has been about them. I'm reading the newspaper again this morning that they want to issue blank pardons to those who committed crimes on January 6th. Republicans call them political prisoners. I mean, these are people who were arrested, indicted, tried, and convicted by juries and judges in courtrooms across this country for violently attacking our brave law enforcement officers. People who smashed cops in the heads with metal barricades, who jammed them indoors until blood was coming out of their mouths. And the incoming administration is thinking about pardoning them? Let that sink in, everybody. Let that sink in. And before I'm accused of harping on January 6th, I'm not the one bringing it up. The incoming president-elect is.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
So when I'm talking about my concerns over the bill we are considering here today, understand that these are not unfounded fears. The new administration is leaking plans to court-martial military officers who are not sufficiently loyal. Isn't that usually how things go in authoritarian dictatorships? Purge the military of anyone who might have a spine and refuse to obey an unlawful order. I mean, what the hell is going on here? And their cabinet picks so far? I mean, these are like beyond insane. Someone who is credibly accused of having sex with an underage girl. Someone who sucks up to foreign dictators and has attracted major concern that they can't be trusted to protect America's secrets from our adversaries. Someone who paid hush money to cover up a sexual assault accusation, to lead our military. He's picked because Donald Trump likes him on Fox News. Someone who says that tap water turns kids gay. I mean, this is the dream team?
This is it, really? I mean, this is it. Look, when Steve Bannon was asked about these picks, about these TV picks, about these reality TV picks for the most part, okay, about fake news, purveyors of fake news, Pete Hegseth, a guy who's covered in white supremacist tattoos, Tulsi Gabbard, who was hailed on Russian state TV as being our girl. RFK, who says, drinking water makes your kids gay. It's just when Bannon was asked about this, do you know what he said? He said Donald Trump is a blunt force object, and we intend to hit the government with blunt force trauma, meaning they're going to break the whole thing. They're going to break it all. Everything that is part of our ability to live in a civilized society is about to be attacked with blunt force. Seriously. It's going to be attacked to the point where you put Tulsi Gabbard in as the DNI, okay, for instance. We will not have intelligence sharing anymore with other allies of ours who we typically share intelligence with. We will not have intelligence sharing with the Five Eyes, which is like UK and Australia. We will not have intelligence sharing at all with the Middle East. I mean, what could come from that? What could happen where we're caught, let's say, blindsided, and then we wake up on a nice crisp Tuesday morning and you find that there are airplanes making U-turns in the sky for hours now, and then all of a sudden, bam, they just crash into landmarks in the United States. Like, why would that be a good thing? Why would that be a preferable thing instead of sharing intelligence, which a lot of the arrangements that we have were born out of 9/11's tragic Tuesday morning? Okay. What good can come from a mass deportation of law-abiding citizens who have been here for years, contribute to our economy, and pay taxes into our treasury, and do a lot of the stuff that needs doing around here, freeing up people who are citizens to do things that their heart desires, like teach school or, be the architect of the building instead of the roofer, or designing the electrical, schematic instead of installing the electrical, which is, like what my uncles did. I mean, what good could come from, mass deportation? How does that bring down the price of food in this country? And speaking of food, if you have a person who only wants you to eat organic, which is admirable but expensive, what does that do to your food prices? Does that make food prices go up, especially during a mass deportation, or does it actually make your food prices go down during a mass deportation? Okay. If you're going to wipe out Medicare and the Medicare Trust Fund so they can steal it, which is what I've been saying for I don't know how many years, that the apple of their eye has been the last giant tranches of money, which is the Social Security Trust Fund and the Medicare and Medicaid Trust Fund, okay? So if they want to steal that money and they put somebody, in charge of it who can make it look like what he's really doing is helping you afford your own private health insurance through a tax now, a 20% tax instead of the 7.5% FICA tax, which is borne by half by you. FICA taxes are, paid half by your employer, half by you. But now all of a sudden a 20% tax is slapped on you if you want to have any health insurance, because he's also going to be in charge of the ACA, which they have vowed to get rid of. He's also in charge of Medicaid, which is for poor people. I mean, how do they pay a 20% tax if they're so poor that they qualify for Medicaid? You can see where this is headed, right? So just talking about these simple things here, you realize you would be paying a 20% tax for health care without, and the ACA actually pays you or helps you pay for health care. It's a subsidy for people who need a subsidy. So if you got rid of the subsidy, you'd lose about 7 million people would lose their health insurance overnight because they wouldn't be able to afford the premiums anymore, right? So you pass that cost on to everybody, and then you have a 20% tax. Then you have the Department of Education being blown up by Linda McMahon, who believes, and they'll couch it in a parent's choice, right? School choice. Well, you have that now, don't you? Yeah, you do. You can choose to send your child to any school you want, as long as you can afford it. Okay, so what choice are you being deprived of? There's even vouchers now for charter schools, which, they don't have to prove that they, are doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing, which is teaching your kid to read and write. They don't even have to prove that. But now all of a sudden you wipe out the Department of Education, whose job it is to fund. It distributes billions in federal money to colleges, to schools. It manages the entire federal student loan program. That's $1 trillion worth of, money sitting there. Okay, so you put her in charge of it, and now you're asked to send your kid to school, but you have to now pay for it or make up the difference what the federal government used to contribute, and that's 14%. And so now you're at 34% new taxes. Now add in the cost of food, which will increase because you're mass deporting people who actually harvest your food and slice your food. And you're not allowed to process your food anymore, so that increases costs. So what are you now paying for food? Okay, now add in the tariffs. Okay, Donald Trump wants to put 60% tariffs on anything that comes in from China, and anywhere from a 20% tariff to 100% tariff on anything that comes in from Mexico. So now what are we looking at here? Are we looking at a $10 avocado? Are we looking at a $15 jalapeno? Are we looking at a pound of rice for, I don't know, what does it cost now? So I buy rice. Sometimes I could buy it, I buy medium grain because I like sticky rice, right? For $1.21 a pound. So am I talking about $6 a pound for rice? Can you see what's about to happen? Can you see?
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
We're seeing this rise in food and fuel costs that are really causing the American people to struggle. Nobody's pointing to the fact that this comes as a direct result of Biden's war to punish Russia, trying to destroy their economy.
In Ukraine, who are terrified now that their husbands are going to be forcibly drafted to go and fight in this war. They are angered that the United States has stood in the way of attempts to bring about a peaceful resolution to this war. Now, with NATO, he is forcing the American people and NATO members to be confronted with some very serious and important questions. For us, what is the role of NATO? Does our membership in NATO serve our national security interests? And if it does, then how much are we, the American people, willing to put on the line in our taxpayer dollars and in American lives? And how much are these NATO members willing to put on the line in their money and the lives of their citizens? We cannot allow ourselves, the United States of America and the American people, to continue to be in this position where these NATO members expect us to put up our money. They expect us to put up the lives of my brothers and sisters in uniform to protect them when they're not even willing to do that for themselves.
I don't know what the hell she's talking about. She refers to Russia's invasion of Ukraine as Ukraine's war on Russia. She refers to Joe Biden's attempt to get Putin to stop attacking maternity hospitals and theaters and kindergartens and apartment blocks and energy, producing outfits like the Zaporizhia power plant. As Biden is prolonging this war in Ukraine because he doesn't let Putin just take it. You know what I mean? And then if NATO is, keeping us safe, NATO has kept Europe safe for 70 years. 70. And the idea that Norway and Finland are now prepping. They're prepping because they entered NATO on purpose. They were very, very neutral for a very long time. And then all of a sudden they looked around and they said, oh, geez, our border is with Russia. And this guy isn't going to stop at Ukraine. We need to join NATO as a deterrent. And they did, and they were admitted, and there's that. And they're now ready to defend Europe. Norway and Finland, their military is at the heightened state of readiness that would allow them to be called into action today. What is she talking about? And this is one of the cabinet selections, and this one is for the Director of National Intelligence. When I tell you that their model is to break the government, when I tell you that their model that they're following is the one in Argentina, I suggest you Google what is going on in Argentina. This Milei guy, he was just at Magalocco. And you know what he came to do? He came to thank Elon Musk for helping him win his election. That's what he came to Magalocco to do. He gave a speech. Unfortunately, it was in Spanish, but he gave a speech, a long one, in Magalocco, in Donald Trump's house, in Donald Trump's, house/resort, thanking Elon Musk for helping him to get elected. Do you know what happened to the poverty rate in Argentina since he became elected? It was bad to begin with. When he got elected, he's a libertarian candidate, by the way. Milei is. He doesn't want any government, and he's disassembling the government of Argentina under the auspices of it was all corrupt, and instead of doing anti-corruption things like Ukraine does, like people who have had oligarchies in their countries who are now trying and striving for democracies and for representational, republics, they clean out house by using their attorney generals, by using their prosecutors general, by actually holding these oligarchs to account, by jailing them for stealing the money of the treasury, right? I mean, do you remember in Ukraine we had the revolution, the Orange Revolution? You had the Maidan, right? You had people and Viktor Yanukovych and all these guys were run out on a rail, run out of town. And instead of doing that oligarching, I don't know what you would call it, your economy and holding people to account, there's the other way, and that's just abolish the government, just smash it, just break it, just ruin it. And what it does is it passes all of the responsibility for everything from security to food to safety, in food and safety and in transportation, everything from air transportation to rail transport. It puts it. The onus is on the people now. It's on the people. You know what happened in Argentina? So when Milei became the president of Argentina, he had a 40% poverty rate. It was terrible there, really terrible. And this is one of the richest nations on the planet. You're talking about oil-rich, places. You're talking about places with an enormous amount of natural resources. Now the poverty rate in Argentina is 60%, a 20% increase since he has wiped off the face of the earth a lot of the government, a lot of it. And you have, this is the research numbers, the first quarter of 2023 and 2024. We can compare them now, okay? If you can compare the first quarter of 23 and 24, the number of people in Argentina not having their basic needs covered grew from 43% in 23 by 131%. 131% rise in Argentina. People who can't manage okay, wait, hang on. Something went down my throat. It's lodged in the pipe right here. 131% rise in the case of people who can't manage 4 daily meals, who can't have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with a snack in between. This means that 11.5% of the Argentine population passed into what they call destitution. Destitution. People who are now going to restaurant dumpsters, to supermarket dumpsters, to look for things that might be salvageable to put on their plates. That is what this libertarian philosophy has brought to Argentina. Can look years ago at what Milton Friedman and his whole, experiment with, right-wing, crazy kind of economics. They did it in Chile. They experimented in Chile. And, Chile used to have Social Security. They had pension plans for their seniors. Well, when Milton Friedman went into Chile with the, protection of our government, yes, our government, actually said, go in there and conduct this experiment. They installed Pinochet and all this. They stole the Social Security Trust Fund, and now Chile is in dire, dire poverty. Chile is just, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful country with, the Andes Mountains should be a great tourist spot. I mean, this is what they do. And our country is responsible for intervening in all of these people's politics. All of them. When you look at Iran and the danger that Iran has become, you have to go back to, 1954. I wasn't alive, but I can read. The United States overthrew the Shah of Iran. We overthrew him. It's never, it's all these many years later, 70 years later, and Iran still wants their revenge. People do not forget who did it to them.
Connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All righty, everybody. Steve in Vermont.
Hi, Randy. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you in that beautiful spot you got?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Hey, I haven't talked to you since the election, so it can only be okay.
Yeah.
My Republican governor voted for Harris.
Yeah.
And he openly admitted it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. We're a target, but we're safe up here in the blue state.
Yeah.
Although we do have our rednecks, like everybody.
Everybody does, yeah.
Yeah. But what these people that voted for this don't seem to understand is that if they get rid of the Department of Education,
right,
it'll affect them in two ways. And one will be right away major. One will be the increase in their property tax to try to keep their public school, which right now is about 70% of your property tax, depending on where you live in the Northeast. So that's one. The other is, well, Randy, you and I remember this, when the kids from Florida would move up to New York and, they were in 11th grade in Florida. Well, now they're in 8th grade in New York.
Yeah.
So that's what's doomed to fail. You said it years ago. They don't see us as consumers. They see us as worker bees to produce for China and India and all the other growing countries. You said that years ago, and that stuck with me, 15 years.
Yeah, we're the new labor.
Exactly.
But,
I see it
Project 2025, that's why it's so interesting that, labor, like the Teamsters, I just want to smack them around a little bit. The Teamsters did not endorse Donald Trump, and obviously Donald Trump hates unions and collective bargaining because they need to make us the cheap labor of the world. And that's why unions have no place in Donald Trump's America. And I mean, when the Teamsters just refused to endorse, Kamala Harris, I just thought to myself, and everybody else did too, F around and find out. And they did, and they will.
Yep. And, Americans are stupid. They got to hurt before they realize what they voted for.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of hurt. And mostly it's going to affect the people that voted for him.
Yes, it is. It's going to affect red states. When you look at, how many red states are the lowest income states, right? How many of them are? It's almost all of them, okay? It's and I look at the Midwest too, because they're the growers, they're the farmers, and their export business, as far as corn and soybeans, that's like $7 billion worth of exports, okay? And that's about to go away for them. And they voted for Donald Trump. I mean, farming, 77% of the popular vote in farming communities went to Donald Trump. Rural America, I'm reading this, 64% of rural voters went for Trump. And then when you look at the lowest income earning states, there's 30 states that are the lowest income earning states. 28 of the 30 voted for Donald Trump, and they're the ones who are going to get hurt the worst.
Absolutely. I mean, didn't Nancy Pelosi's daughter do that little documentary years ago?
Yeah, but they don't watch anything with a Pelosi name on it, okay?
No. But what I'm getting at is that in the documentary, she interviewed a gentleman that was literally almost living in a cardboard box and voted Republican. And she said, "Why do you keep doing this to yourself?" And he said, "Well, one day it'll work out for me." I mean, it's not that way. It's not so simple. They want simple answers, like you said, for complicated questions. And
here's a simple answer. Here's a very simple answer. Who was the most pro-labor president in my lifetime, your lifetime?
Joe Biden.
That's right. So here you had Joe Biden, who saved, I can't tell you how many pension plans. And Bob Casey in Pennsylvania managed to save 1 million people's pension plans, and he's defeated by Dave McCormick, who, lost to Mehmet Oz in a primary and is still trying to get to the Senate to enrich himself. Do you know what I mean? And yet you had the most pro-labor president in Joe Biden and the most pro-labor senator in Bob Casey, and they voted the other way.
And they got rid of Sherrod Brown, too.
Yeah, another worker guy. And also, John Tester, what's his? I always screw up Tester's first name because I know a guy. There was a mob guy in my life named Patty Tester. Okay, he's dead, but John Tester, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually know somebody with that name too.
Isn't that weird? So anyway,
Yes.
yeah. So John Tester was defeated, and he has been trying to protect the public lands, which is very valuable to Montana for, tourism and state parks and grazing rights and the whole 9 yards. And they defeated him for some snot-nosed guy that isn't even from there. And he's going to give away the public lands for oil drilling and fracking.
That's part of the plan.
Yeah.
And the reason why all this happened is because they concentrated on culture wars.
Yes.
That's always how they do it.
Yes, but they're fake. They're always fake.
It.
Culture wars are not real. Okay? They're just not. Nobody has ever or will ever wage war on culture. Culture is what we say it is. And if you don't participate in this or that, it doesn't become, they don't become a cultural icon. Look, if Taylor Swift is a multi-billion-dollar business, she's a cultural icon. Why? Because people chose her. They chose to go to her shows. They chose her songs. They chose her records. Okay? That's what culture is.
What it is they want to be able to be what it was when they glorified it in their own mind. Still.
But it was
never that way.
Right.
The rose-colored glasses and the cult are running hand in hand here.
But this is what I'm saying, and you're saying it too, is that the culture war isn't real. It never was. It never will be. It never will be. But it's always about pointing to the people are eating the pets. Do you know what I mean? Those people in Springfield who made that town function and have a live Main Street and a lively grocery store and restaurant scene, they have left. They all left Springfield because they can't live there because Donald Trump terrorized them.
But Randy, this is the problem. No one knows this but us because the Democrats didn't sell this.
Oh, I think they did. I think she tried.
Not good enough.
I think hey, listen, Steve, the actual number of votes in the 3 swing states that gave the election to Donald Trump is 276,000. That's the 3 swing states combined. Could have gone the other way, right? So we did a good job. We did. But rural America did not. Farming America did not. Labor in America did not. They didn't do a good job. You had the most pro-labor president. You had a woman who was telling you about Project 2025 and outlining for you that the Department of Education would be wiped off of the face of the earth. We sold it.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
My friend, Dr. Mehmet Oz. He's a great man. Dr. Oz, I've known him a long time. His show is great. He's on that screen. He's in the bedrooms of all those women telling them good and bad, and they love him.
Straight from Central Casting, Dr. Oz. And he's not the only one. Trump's stacking his administration with people that he believes look the part. He's already named Fox host Pete Hegseth for Defense Secretary, Fox host Sean Duffy for Transportation Secretary. And none of that is a surprise in this context because Trump does put a premium on having what he sees as the look.
Oh, he's a handsome dude. Is that good? This guy's Central Casting. We'll take him. He is perfect. He's Central Casting. He's going to be a great one. We have the great Tom Homan, Central Casting, right?
Central Casting, Central Casting, Central Casting. He says it himself. It's clear. Tom Homan, the last name he mentioned, is now Trump's border czar. But when it comes to Oz, he may look the part, but he did lose Pennsylvania's Senate race in 2022, in part because of a number of controversial and downright odd remarks. For example, the medical research that he conducted that had resulted in the deaths of animals, Democrats seized on that.
Mehmet Oz ran experiments on puppies, killing over 300 dogs. They were subjected to extreme suffering.
Now, Oz says that he did not abuse any animals. During the pandemic, he talked up the benefits of hydroxychloroquine as a treatment for COVID-19.
A small study that shows statistical significance is a really important observation.
Now, the FDA says hydroxychloroquine is unlikely to be an effective treatment for COVID-19. And in this era that we are in, if you happen to doubt the FDA, the Mayo Clinic says it is not recommended for a COVID treatment and notes that studies have shown people who take it are more likely to suffer from heart problems, on top of the fact that it doesn't effectively treat COVID.
Oh.
And then there are the weird things that Oz said. He was on a radio show and was asked about whether it's okay to have sex with a cousin.
If you're more than a first cousin away, it's not a big problem. Every family has genetic strengths and weaknesses. And so the reason we naturally crave people who are not so like us is because you just have to mix the gene pool up a little bit.
Okay. I mean, he's given way too much thought to effing your cousin. Okay. Just to have an opinion on it is just really kind of fascinating. Okay. And that goes along with his, pushing dietary supplements that never worked, increasing the sales of those dietary supplements. We don't know how much he's worth, but the estimate is somewhere between. Don't ask me why. It can't be any more specific. You would think, but it's somewhere between $100 million and $315 million that he has. And every single person, from Elon Musk to Vivek Ramaswamy to Dr. Oz to Linda McMahon, they're all very well situated. They're all extraordinarily rich people, not necessarily the stock from which you would draw for public service. They're picking winners and losers in this government, and right now it seems to me that the four corners of our government that Donald Trump wants to occupy, control, and privatize is the intelligent. I mean, these are people that he feels lied to him. For Bannon, for Trump, for billionaires having access to and controlling things like the healthcare system of the United States. Very, very lucrative. I mean, this is a heart doctor. Dr. Mehmet Oz is a heart surgeon who hasn't done a heart surgery since 2018, but is worth $315 million by using his position as a heart surgeon to become a reality TV doctor. And now he wants to be the reality TV manager of Medicare and Medicaid and the trust fund there. And the ACA, which is inside of that particular agency, all of our health care is now in his hands. And this is the man that they have chosen. Now, why would they choose him? Because Donald Trump feels like Anthony Fauci and the public servants at the CDC and even Debbie Birx, okay, all of these people that were trying to help us get through a pandemic with, the least amount of death. And he didn't help it any by calling the whole thing a hoax and telling people Florida had one of the worst death rates because we had a governor who said, just keep everything open, you do you, have fun, and if you die, you die. And we lost 1 million people. Like I said, we were 4% of the world's population, and we had the most deaths, the most COVID deaths because of that. So now he wants to own and be inside of the, HHS. He wants to be inside of the CDC. He wants to be inside of the FDA. He wants to be inside of Medicare and Medicaid trust funds. I mean, and that's what he's done here with his RFK pick to be the agent. You realize Mehmet Oz's boss in this scenario is RFK Jr., who isn't a doctor. I mean, it's just very... the other portion of the government he feels that lied to him was the intelligence community. He feels like they presented the truth about what was going on in Ukraine, and he didn't want the truth about what was going on in Ukraine because, frankly, he wanted to extort Ukraine. He wanted Ukraine to work for him and get him dirt on Joe Biden. And the intelligence community, like Alexander Vindman and Fiona Hill and Maria Yanukovych, they all, every one of the ambassadors, they all blew the whistle on Donald Trump, saying that he was extorting a nation that was already occupied by Russia. Crimea was already occupied. The Donetsk region in the east was already occupied by Russia. And, he didn't want to hear that. He wanted to hear Ukraine was the problem. He wanted it because he wanted to extort them. And so now he needs to control the State Department. He needs to control the intel. He needs to control anything that we know or anything that we would learn. And anybody that is going to be a whistleblower is now going to a gulag. And that brings us to the AG. That brings us to Matt Gaetz. The law in this country, it's a threat to him because he's a lawless man. He's a fraud and he's a rapist and he's been adjudicated as a sexual assaulter. He admits that he used to go into Miss Teen USA and look at them because when you own the pageant, they let you do it, whatever. Okay, and he feels like he's been the Attorney General of the United States and that through their independent counsel power to appoint somebody, that they have tracked Donald Trump in his lawlessness and held him accountable for it. They have indicted him, they have tried him, and they have gotten verdicts. One was a civil verdict. E. Jean Carroll, as a private citizen, was able to do that. And the other one was business fraud, which, by the way, they had to postpone the sentencing until after he's not president anymore. You know why? Because if they would have sentenced him before he became president, when he became president, he would have appealed it and it would have died because he's president. So they said, we won't sentence him now. We'll wait till he's not president anymore so that the case doesn't die. But he has to control law enforcement, not law enforcement. He has to control the prosecutors in this nation. And that's why Matt Gaetz, that's why he's attorney out of nowhere. A guy we're not even sure practices law, ever is. And the other portion of our compact is media. And he's going after that with this HR 9495, where he's going after NPR. He's going after not-for-profits. He's going after people who would tell you the truth because they're not owned. They're not wholly owned subsidiaries of corporate America. They're not wholly owned subsidiaries of big pharma. They're not wholly owned subsidiaries of politics. They don't play to to an audience that will be exposed then to political ads that their sales force sells. Okay, that their sales force goes out and contacts both, or all of the candidates and says, okay, I can get you, in this market for this amount of money. I need $1 million spend. And here's how many commercials you can air in this period of time. So these are the four corners of our civilized society that they are going after. Media, obviously. The intelligence community, health and human services, and law, and the prosecution of criminals. And he's flaunting it by naming every single person who is a sexual offender to high positions in government because he's mocking you. He's telling you you don't stand a chance. Not a chance. Oh, you were raped in the military? Go see Pete Hegseth. 1 in 4 women in the military are raped. Just so you know. You think that's going to increase or decrease?